All right, more of your phone calls coming up, 877-3DP Show. He's Flip Saunders, the Timberwolves president of basketball operations. He got a fancy title there, joining us now. Hi, Flip.
How are you? We have something in common.
Okay.
We both worked at ESPN.
Yeah.
Or used to, should I say.
Was it tough to leave to take that job?
Yeah, I actually enjoyed my time there, what I was doing, and but good opportunity for me where I'm at. Looking forward to challenges that lie ahead.
Give me an idea of what that job entails. When you're the Timberwolves president, means what? What happened to the general manager? Is there a general manager and a president?
Well, we don't have a general manager right now, so I'm acting as those duties right now. So we haven't put anyone in that position. So I'm pretty much doing a little bit of everything. But we have, as you well know now, at all pro sports, there's such a support staff that, underneath you that it makes jobs a little bit easier to do, and you don't have to maybe do as many as the monotonous chores that normally were in the past when there were smaller organizations.
I was wondering about the approach to Phil Jackson, if you can help me with this, as a former coach now being in the front office. And it seems like everybody keeps saying, let's ask Phil if he wants to coach. Wouldn't the approach be if let him run the front office here? I don't think he wants to coach, do you? No,
I don't think so. I mean, I think he's done that. He's had success. I think he'd coach if he knew he was getting into a similar type situation that he had when he went to Chicago and when he was in L.A. But that situation right now is down in Miami, and that's not going to happen. So, but no, I think Phil. And here's what people have to realize: Phil was in the CBA for a while. In the CBA, when you're the coach, you're basically the general manager. You are the president. You attain players. You really set the philosophy of the type of players you want and how you want to build your team, and you pretty much have hands-on in all decisions, who you hire, assistant coaches, your trainers, and the players you bring in. And I really believe that's something that I think he's really looking forward to try to get into doing. Now, whether he does it somewhere else or whether something does happen when out in L.A., I guess everyone will have to wait and see.
I'll hit you with a couple of the games and let you be analyst again for a moment. I just want to ask you about Kevin Love, that he didn't get a max contract. David Kahn, I think the quote was, he's not leading us to the playoffs. Kevin Love's health and future with the Timberwolves is what?
Solid. And I believe that health-wise, he's doing things now. He's about 2 weeks away from really being full go on everything. I believe he's one of the most unique players in the league. When you look at him, you very rarely can you find a player that's going to get you 15, 16 rebounds and go out and can shoot perimeter shots and do those things. Usually a guy that gets 15, 16 rebounds, can't score in the gym by himself in our league. So I believe that he's a very unique player, and I do believe he has the ability with Rubio. We got to definitely add players that help make those guys better, but that's a pretty good base to start with.
Why didn't he get a max deal?
Yeah, that I don't know. I mean, that I haven't really divulged into that much. And as I talked to Kevin here over the last few days, I'm not going to look backwards. I want to look forward.
Okay. And
I believe that he feels very good about the direction of where we're going and what I told him what we're trying to do, and I think that's a positive for us, as Ricky Rubio feels the same way.
He's Flip Saunders, now the president of the Minnesota Timberwolves, joining us, Dan Patrick Show. Put on your analyst hat one more time here. Knicks Pacers, and I thought Charles Barkley said something that was really poignant last night. He said the Pacers don't have to have a great game out of anybody each night as much as the Knicks have to have a great game out of Melo. You believe that?
Well, what it is, the Knicks' philosophy is that they're going to live and die by their jump shots, pretty much, and pretty much by the three-point shot. And but with the way the Knicks team is, because their offense is such a base of what ignites their defense, that if they're not making shots, they're going to have problems. And if you look at the Knicks, they're one of the lowest assist teams in the league because they do. Melo gets the ball in his hands a lot, and they do play what I would consider isolation-type basketball at times. And so if he is hot, their offense is good, their defense is looking good. If he's not, they're going to struggle, both in transition defense and their half-court defense. So I would say that's a little bit. Last night was a very unique game. The score is 64-62.
Unbelievable.
And Knicks go on a 30-2 run, which is, I don't know if that's considered a run or a stampede. I don't know which we were looking at, but and it was very interesting. And I know it was pointed out by a couple of people. And I was watching the game, and I was a little bit surprised. A lot of times you try to use timeouts, but when you're playing, you've been to Madison Square Garden. That place is can turn so quick. I always tell a story that we played them one time when I was in Minnesota. The night before, they had a game where they had like 25 turnovers, and we played them. The jump ball came up. Charlie Ward came down. He threw it out of bounds, and the crowd started booing him 10 seconds into the game. And 2 minutes later they were cheering. But that's how they are. They're great fans, and so. Indiana really had a little bit of momentum going. They got a rebound at 64-62. They're coming up, and Coach Vogel called a timeout. And I'm not saying this changed it, but all of a sudden, out of that timeout, it's like there was a different switch that turned on, and all of a sudden, that's when they went on a 30-2 run.
Yeah, that was an odd timeout. The Grizzlies and the Thunder, I like Memphis because it's a tough team to get ready for and play night in and night out. You could play them one time, but you're going to be there for a 6 or 7 game series. Why is Memphis so difficult?
Well, when you really look at the teams, and when you get this far in the playoffs, the teams that have success are the teams that can will how they play during the regular season and play that same way in the playoff. Indiana, first game, their defense was stellar. New York couldn't make threes, which they live and die by in the regular season. Memphis might be similar to Chicago, is a team that they are going to play the same way every game. And they're not going to veer away how they have to play. We see Oklahoma City's had to change because Westbrook went out. And they're so difficult because they have 2 big men that probably together are the most talented offensive players. Even though they might not be the quickest guys in the world, they're the most efficient, and they're very skilled offensive players, both from passing the ball and scoring. And I'll tell you what, when I look at Gasol, every time I watch him, I become more and more impressed just with the way he passes the ball, how he really kind of runs that offense at times. And last night, when you look how Conley played, I've said all along this whole year I thought he was one of the most underrated point guards in the league, and he struggled up till last night where he played really well. And if he plays like that, they're a tough team to beat. You
expect to see Derrick Rose play in this series with Miami?
Yeah, I know there's talks about him getting on the bench. I don't see that happening, Dan. I mean, for him to sit out and come back in this situation against Miami, if he did that, I mean, I would have unbelievable respect for him in that he basically what he's been saying all year is that when I'm ready to play, I'll play no matter who it is. But to come out in that type of environment, especially where how the series is right now, that would really be very, very gutsy for him to do.
You think it's his decision? What if he said, I want to, and management or Thibodeau said, no, we don't want you to?
I think right now they've said all along, and I think they've said it right, is that it is his decision, and you can't lose that trust factor from player to coach, coach to player, player to management. And they've said all along, when you're ready to play, let's go ahead and play. Now, he's been practicing, and from the reports I've had, I mean, he's been pretty dang good in practices. So I think people believe that he's ready to play physically, but he just doesn't have that whole confidence level, and that's the most important thing, because as players you have to have confidence in what you're doing because the game is so instinctive. But my recommendation would be where he's at right now, that he sit where he's at. He's got a good-looking suit sitting there on the sidelines, and he's doing a pretty good job being an assistant coach.
Before I let you go, I keep trying to come up with a comparison to Steph Curry. Who does he remind you of?
How about Del Curry?
No, Del had no handle. Del could shoot in the corner.
I'll tell you what, who he reminds me of and how quick he gets a shot off is, you remember Dale Ellis?
That's who I brought up yesterday to Barkley, but he said, Dale didn't have a handle. He was a post guy in college.
But, the interesting thing is, I don't think anyone thought Steph had a handle till we saw him in the playoffs.
Well, remember his final year, Davidson, he was going to point guard, and they're going, why he point guard? He can't play point guard.
Right.
He's defied all the scouts who thought he wasn't tough enough, good enough handle, strong enough, and all he could do was shoot.
Well, I'll tell you what, all the things you said, he can shoot, and he can do all those other things too. But he's right now, he's given a different dimension to watching these games. I mean, as you well know, Dan, the interest right now in the NBA is over the top just because of all the storylines. Almost in every series, there's a storyline, and it's really made for good radio talk and good TV.
Well, good luck with Minnesota, Flip. Good to talk to you. Thank you.
Keep in touch.
All right.
Okay.
Flip Saunders, Minnesota Timberwolves president, former ESPN employee. We have a lot in common.